Welcome to Frank and Upfront. I am your host, Mr. Franklin. A very special welcome to all of you who are joining me here on this podcast. I invite you to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell to be notified of weekly uploads. If you wish to advertise on Frank and Upfront, please email me at frankandupfrontpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to donate to my channel, you can do so via PayPal at Frank and Upfront. Frank and Upfront is moving to a new channel. It is the second channel in this picture, the one with the gold microphone. Effective November 1st, Frank and Upfront will be uploading content exclusively to the new channel, which means that the prior week of October 25 will be the final podcast on the original channel. Please subscribe to the new channel today. This week's topic: is it wise to date a work colleague? Now, we live in a fast-paced world where everything seems to come to us, and it kind of robs us of our sense of adventure. We no longer have an incentive to go out and pursue our heart's desires as our ancestors did since literally time immemorial. For the first time in history, creature comforts are so far advanced that with literally the push of a button, everything is handed to us. And it robs us of our incentive to go out and get things and pursue what we desire. So it's not really doing us any justice. And dating is no different. We have dating apps like Tinder and so forth. But then, with this fast-paced society that we now have, everybody has gotten increasingly busy. Busy with work and making money. Nothing wrong with that though, but our social lives suffer as a result of us being busy. Busy at work all the time. Because our social lives suffer, for many people, the only place where we actually have a social life is at work. So work is now a one-stop for everything. One stop for money, for food. People don't have time to cook no more, but there's definitely a cafeteria in every office building, I guarantee you though. And one stop for your social life and your dating needs. For that reason, it is now easier than before and far more likely than before for people to become involved in love affairs at work. Now, there have always been work colleagues who engage in love affairs from time immemorial. But it is now far more likely than ever before because of this new corporate culture, because of this new all-in-one, one-stop kind of culture we have at work where our social lives suffer and we have grown complacent and lazy, and we have kind of lost our incentive to go out and be go-getters, and so everything is situated right in our comfort zone. And many people fall for that trap. It is a trap. Is it wise to date your work colleague, though? Well, I would say yes, it is under some circumstances. But I will leave that for last. First of all, let me say that there are two different kinds of work colleagues that people have, that they don't even recognize that these people are their work colleagues, but they are. You have your primary work colleagues, the one who work for your corporation, the company to which you are employed. Say, for example, you work at McDonald's. Everybody else who works at McDonald's they are your primary co-workers. But if there's another company in the same building, say for example, Wendy's or Burger King, they're in the same building, you work together, they're your neighbors, but they're not McDonald's employees. Well, those are your secondary co-workers. Secondary co-workers are the people with whom you work who do not work for the company to which you are employed. Very good examples of secondary co-workers would include the UPS guy, the FedEx guy, the mailman who drops off packages. If you are at the concierge desk or the reception desk and your job is to receive packages, then the UPS and FedEx guy and the mailman, they're your secondary co-workers. Another example of secondary co-workers would include the office maid, the nighttime cleaning staff. They are outsourced to clean your office area, your workstation, from another company. Usually they're hired through an agency. Security guards are also hired through an agency, and they're also sent to monitor and patrol your work property, the property upon which your job is situated. They are also your secondary co-workers. Now, there's a reason why I mentioned that. Are you allowed to date your secondary co-workers? Once again, it depends. But first, let me get the main question out of the way. Is it wise to date your primary co-workers, the ones who work for your company? The answer is a 100% flat out unequivocal no. It is a bad idea. If you can be discreet, then, I wish you all the best. I wouldn't advise it, but I wish you all the best, because no matter how discreet you think you're being, someone is bound to run into you at the bar on Friday night, and by Monday morning, all of your work colleagues have heard about it. Someone's bound to run into the two of you together shopping at the mall on Saturday. By Sunday evening, the whole office has heard. Now, it is not it is not wise to date any of your co-workers, whether primary or secondary, because by so doing, you are exercising what it means to have a scarcity mindset. You mean to tell me that you have no social life, that your only source of refuge for dating is at work? That's how you look. You look lame, like nobody want to be your friend outside of work, and like your work colleagues are your only source for social entertainment and dating options. So in order for you to not look that way and look pathetic at work, don't date any of your work colleagues. But if you must though, please be discreet. Very discreet. Another reason why it is not good to date your work colleagues is that in the event that there is a conflict of interest and one of the two persons within the relationship is being shaken down by the higher ups in the company, the other person might feel personally offended by that. They might want to retaliate, but they can't. And what happens in the event that there is a promotion? One person gets promoted, the other person doesn't. Then that person becomes your boss, even if they were not your boss previously. It might bring up jealousy issues in the relationship. At the same time, if the people in the relationship are neither mature nor professional, whatever personal beef they may have outside of work will spill over at work. Whatever happens at home will spill over at work, most likely. And whatever happens at work might spill over at home. It shouldn't be the case, though. It is more likely for drama that takes place at home to spill over at work than it is for drama at work to spill over at home. But if it depends on the level of maturity and professionalism of the people involved. If they can't handle conflict, then they will allow their work drama to spill over at home, which is, by the way, a huge red flag. If the moment they do that, like, break up with them, who the hell does that? Work is not that serious. You go there to get money. It's not that serious. Why are you allowing work to spill over at home? Anyway, and then here's another consideration. If someone at work is hitting on your boo or your belle, because you're so discreet, because you have to be discreet, you have to sit there and watch that shit go down and be completely neutered to do anything about it. Because if you say something about it, you might let off that, you might alert everyone to the fact that you have an interest in that person or that you're seeing that person. How do you handle that? How do you handle a situation where she's your belle, you're dating your work colleague, and someone hits on her without knowing whether or not she's taken, and you're sitting there watching this whole shit go down, and you are frozen and you can't do anything? How do you handle that? Well, she's a big girl. She has the capabilities of looking after herself, And if she entertains the person that does that, she can have him. He can have her. If on the other hand, however, she kind of gives him the hint that she's not interested and brushes him aside, then she might be a keeper. That's actually a pretty good test to know if someone's a keeper or not. It's a very good test. How does she handle being hit on, especially if she is hot? But then again, if she's super hot, everyone in and out of work will be hitting on her, and you will have to deal with that for quite possibly the rest of your relationship. The rest of your relationship. It reminds me of a song, a disco love song from the 70s. When you're in love with a beautiful woman, it's hard. When you're in love with a beautiful woman, you look for lies, you look for lies, you look for lies. Yeah. So, but that's a topic for another day, though. Are you willing to handle the extra attention that comes from dating a really hot broad? Coming soon here on this channel. But I digress. Um, that's a very good opportunity to test that person's character, that person's resolve, how they handle rejection without actually being disrespectful. Unless that person is being forceful, then they may have to get out of character. It's very interesting to watch. It requires a great deal of discipline to not get out of your skin, and only the smartest and strongest among us can actually really pull it off. And then again, you must ask yourself the question, is the relationship temporary or permanent? Do you really care about this person? Or is she really just a broad, a piece of meat with a hole in the center? Is she just a broad to you? Is this just a love affair? An entanglement? Seeing as how that's now trending? Or do you see the possibility of the love affair possibly developing into a long-term relationship? Perhaps even marriage. Speaking of marriage, if you arrive on the job already married and you end up working together, that's different. That is your wife. They knew that you were a couple when you went for the interview. You probably went to the interview together. If you get married after having met at the job, that's your wife. That's different. But simply shacking up, though, they don't like that. Most companies do not like that. You simply shacking up with a work colleague. They don't like that. But if okay, if that is your bona fide ride or die wife, your married wife, or husband if you're a female, that nothing much they could do about that. The very least they could do, in the interest of preventing conflicts of interest, the very least they could do is to transfer you both to separate departments within the same corporation so that you don't have to work together. Well, if that's your wife there, that's nothing. There's nothing they could really do about that. The very least they could do during the hiring process is to hire one of you or none of you. And if you meet at work and decide to get married and decide to get serious, Nothing much they could do about that. Matter of fact, I would say that's one of the few situations in which I'm actually going to say go for it. I'm generally against it, but if you're serious together and you see the value in her and you don't want to miss the opportunity of being with her, don't let that job stand in the way of someone who you know is your one true love. But that depends on how deep the love is. Is it shallow or deep? Don't let no job stand in the way of your one true love. Even if one of you have to resign, and I will not give away the identity of the gender who should resign, but I will say this much though. That situation reminds me of former President Barack Obama and how he met his wife, Michelle. They actually met at work. Michelle was his boss. A young Barack in 1988 was working in the law firm of Michelle Obama's father. And Michelle, being the daughter of the owner of the firm, she was Barack's boss, and they kind of liked each other. And he asked her out on a date. She refused at first and said, "Oh, we work together. I'm actually your boss." And then he offered to resign, and he did. And then he came back and asked her out. And I remember reading that they went out for ice cream, and he said that the first kiss tasted like chocolate ice cream. So if you want to pull an Obama stunt as far as dating at the job is concerned and resign, then go for it. If and only if you could tell that this girl is serious, there's something different about her. This is not some shallow fling. This is not some entanglement. This is deep. Then and only then do you resign your job and go out with her. But you do not resign your job over a piece of meat with a hole in the center. Only someone with substance and value who feels the same as you do and who is willing to reciprocate. And you can tell in your heart of hearts, if you're connected to your higher self, your soul, you can tell if someone's serious. You can tell if you're serious about someone. You can tell. But then the decision is ultimately yours. Um, Apart from that, don't date at work. I wouldn't advise it. It makes you look scarce and desperate, like you don't have a social life. It makes you look pathetic. Only if you're really serious about someone. And if you have to resign, then resign. Don't let no job stand in the way of your lifelong love. I wouldn't say soulmate. I don't even believe in soulmates. But I do believe in lifelong love, though. So don't let no job stand in the way of your lifelong love. Resign if you have to. There is always going to be another job out there. And your abundance can actually be exercised in finding that other job as opposed to finding that other lifelong love. Think about it. Now, if you get married after you start working together, talk to your boss and work it out. And he might call both of you into a meeting. And depending on the boss, he might transfer one of you or both of you to a different department so you don't have to work together and there won't be a clash of the interests. That could ruin not only your jobs but also your personal lives. Um, and that's in general, that's primary or secondary. You have a little bit more leeway to date your secondary coworkers though, because they work for a different company. You have a little bit more leeway. Maybe the girls at your job might see you always going to look for this or visit this young lady in the other company, in the neighboring company to you. And they might get jealous and start asking questions or whatever. But do what you have to do. If you like her, then hey, ask her out. But it depends, however. It depends on the nature of how this person is related as a secondary coworker, how they're related as a secondary coworker. It depends on the nature of their secondary co-workership with you. For example, it is less advisable that the receptionist should date the FedEx or UPS delivery courier driver. Yeah. However, you may have a little bit more leeway with the office cleaning crew, the janitor from a different agency who was outsourced to that company to clean for you. You have a little bit more leeway with them, or with the people who work at the cafe in your office building where you go to get your lunch. It's a little bit more of a leeway. You do have more flexibility, but you still got to be careful. It's not advisable, especially in this day and age. In this day and age where the angry feminists are out there trying to me too everybody. They want to scream and cry me too, even for which no crime was committed. Be careful. Before you date anybody, primary coworker, secondary coworker, or not a coworker, everyone should be thoroughly vetted, especially in this day and age. Make sure, young man, that you are not being me too'd, especially if you are a man. Both genders are in danger. Females are in danger of ending up with a dangerous guy who could rape or murder her. Yeah. And men are in danger of being falsely accused of rape and murder, of being falsely accused of being dangerous and creepy. He is guilty for which no crime was committed. He didn't even have the intent. But then again, no crime was committed, but he's guilty though. So because of that, and because the female is using her victim privilege, it is generally unadvisable to date your work colleague, but be very careful and make sure that anybody, co-worker or not, is thoroughly vetted before you entrust them with your life. Your life and your reputation. Your ability to get another job is dependent on that. Be very careful. Now, I know we're talking about co-workers, but as a sidebar, the same can be true for college campuses as well. You could be going to school to be a brilliant lawyer or doctor one day, and some lying bitch ruins the rest of your life. You can't go back to school, and you therefore can't get the degree to work in your field of choice, and your whole life is ruined. You can't play no more you can't play varsity basketball no more or football, and you lose your scholarship. And all because of one lie. And even if she's proven a liar, even if she recants her story, admits that she lied, your reputation, young man, is still ruined forever. That is the venom of the tongue of a narcissistic female. Hell hath no fury like that of a woman's scorn. Be very careful. Make sure everybody is properly and thoroughly vetted. Make sure you know somebody for at least, it was just last week or the week before, whenever it was. Um, I was talking about choosing your relationships, and I was saying it takes 10 years to get to know somebody, because the whole 7 year itch thing is it's just an old wives' tale. So it really does take 10 years, and even then, you still won't really get to know them in depth, really and truly, and in fact, you may never get to know them fully. But at the 10 year mark, you're barely scratching the surface into who they truly are. I remember also ending by saying, don't get serious with anybody. Just go on a social spree and meet as many people as possible to get to know them and vet them. So do exactly that. Don't get serious with anybody you barely know. It gotta be a good 10 years before I actually settle down and get serious with somebody. You know? So don't rush into anything with a stranger who you don't know their intentions. Get to know them first. If you see someone you like at work, get to know them. Don't jump into anything serious with them. Be sociable and amicable and get to know them first. Which brings me to my final point as to the best time to date a coworker is when you're no longer working together. You're actually building rapport, gearing up for a time when one of you resign or the other, and then you can date each other. Once you're no longer co-workers, you're no longer working for the same company, knock yourselves out. Nobody really cares. Knock yourselves out. But for as long as you're working together, you have to be on your best behavior. Oh, yes, you do. So, I'm not saying go in there and be the most serious guy in the room and I'm not going to be nobody's friend. I'm here to do my job and be all rigid and uptight and robotic like. No, not to that extent. You can still be amicable and respectful. You could still attend the company potluck. Yes, nothing against that. You could be sociable. Yeah. Yeah. But do not date your work colleagues until one of you or both of you resign and you no longer work together. And until that day comes that you no longer work together, be amicable and sociable for the sake of building rapport, vetting your work colleague, to see if they pan out. And if they do, then you could either resign and date them or wait until divine intervention would see you no longer working together, or at least not in the same department, and then you can date them. And that's with anybody, primary or secondary. But do not rush into anything for which you do not know the intentions of the next person. You cannot read minds. That could be a psyop for all you know. They could be setting you up. You don't know that. It could be a whole clique, a whole narcissistic little clique in that office, and you're the new guy. You don't know what's going on, right? And they're setting you up to look desperate and pathetic, and you don't know what's going on. Everything is not as it seems. The whole thing could be a psyop that they're running on you, and they could be setting you up, and you don't even know what's going on. You don't know people's hearts and minds or intentions. If you take nothing else from this podcast, take this much from it. Do not get serious with anybody whose intentions you don't know, because you can't read their minds and they're new to you. You have just recently been introduced. Do not trust that things are as they seem. Cover your back, cover your ass, and make sure that everybody who you're inviting into your inner circles is thoroughly vetted and time tested and proven to be bona fide in their intentions. Next week's topic: the purpose of your ego. I hope you'll join me then. I am Mr. Franklin. This has been Frank and Upfront.